Welcome, everyone. Doing a February update. I know February just ended last week, but had everything kind of plotted out, planning out all of my backlog just to kind of get everything in the queue real quick, and realized, man, February update just didn't get thought about or considered. So, recording it right now that I've recorded a few episodes already, and again, just getting everything laid out. But figured do another update just to see how the channel's going and also to just do a quick update on my 366 days of horror movies. So got everything set up on channel. I'm on Google, still on Google Podcasts until they close, and on iHeartRadio, the podcast they have there, of course, Spotify, and on YouTube now. Got the Patreon set up, and overall, just enjoying life. Actually recorded my first one-on-one, and that was fun. I'm not gonna say with who. That'll come out probably April-ish, just because of how where it fell in with me recording other episodes. So it's still gonna be a ways away. But definitely gonna try and get a few more of those one-on-ones in, and then also just trying to mess around with Riverside because apparently come around like near the end of June, I won't be able to fully record and just post, like do all the things that I'm supposed to be able to do on the app. It's like a one-stop shop. There, I had to record on Riverside and save the audio and have it published through the podcast for Spotify app. So I've been messing around with that a little bit. Uh, I like that they have an audio only option now. When I first got Riverside to try it out, it was like an audio video. Either that or just didn't see the audio only toggle, which is there now. So may experiment with that before June comes around or during the month of June just to kind of see how that goes, if there's any noticeable differences, what steps I got to do now to get episodes published. That's always fun, just finding your groove. Only to be told, hey, this groove is gonna have to change to fit and integrate another groove. But that's just the nature of everything that I'm doing to try and keep this simple. And yeah, appreciate all the listens. I've got so far like 15 listens over all my episodes that I've released. So thank you to everyone who has given this podcast a play, a listen, whether it's just for 5 seconds, a minute, or the whole episode, the whole hour. Appreciate it all. And I'm just shocked that people click play. No one subscribed yet, which that's fine. Hey, if you just kind of want to just pick and choose your episodes of my ramblings, feel free to do that. I mean, like I told my guests, like I'm not really trying to get famous and rich off of this. I'm just doing it for me because I just wanted to be able to have an outlet, and also it's also just made podcasting fun again. Like when I first started, podcasting was fun. It was a lot of fun. And then it just, after a while, it just became a lot of work, a lot of stress. It basically turned into a job that was not paying for all the work I was doing for it. So now that it's just me and I can just worry about me and I got to worry about anything else, which again, talking to my guests, it's like, it's not to say that I didn't like having guests on the show or I didn't like having people to talk to and bounce off of. It's easier, and when it's easier, it's so much easier to have more fun. And right now, fun is like the main key for this podcast. So yeah, I'm gonna have as much fun and enjoy all the fun I am having with this while it's still fun. Hopefully, it'll stay fun. But it's so far as staying simple, which even as that, no complaints, no real complaints. Although I did get to try out some new tech, um, because he had some lavalier mics, and so he wanted to try them out, test the quality. It was a good opportunity for both of us. One, to just see how I could record using the app, and two, so he could try out his shit and see how good it sounds, how good it works, the ease of use and everything. And it worked out great for both of us. It was a mutually beneficial thing. So he said that his lavaliers were a lot cheaper than like the JBL ones. I just don't need two. I just need one. But we'll still gonna like take a look into all that and see which would be better price wise and overall just quality wise. So I don't want to get something cheap that's not going to deliver. Excuse me, on the quality that of audio at least that I want. I know I'm driving. I'm using my headsets right now, and they're not the best sound, but like with the enhancement audio features on the Spotify Podcasters app, that helps clean up a good amount. And I just hit the button and just let's do its thing while it processes out and renders out. But with his lavs, I when I hit the enhance audio option, granted, it also was a much more controlled environment. There wasn't much of a difference in the change of quality. So yeah, gonna be looking into getting some of those, and also just enjoying the entire month of February for my horror movies on. Although it was very, very difficult with restricting myself for the first almost half of the month to do loved themed horror movies for Valentine's Day. So the first, the 14th, they all had to do with love or relationship horror. And then the last two had to have they just had Halloween in the title, which they kind of coincided a little bit with what the criteria was for the others. But it was just, man, like I was like, there's a ton of horror movies that it's easy to just pick 366 to watch for a day out of a whole leap year. But then when you start restricting things down and you start looking into like the gray areas, it got real tough. Because there are some movies where they're like, oh, this is a thriller, not so much a horror. But then when you look at the movie and you're like, oh, excuse me again. You look at the movie and you're like, this definitely has horror at its core. It's horror at heart. It just doesn't have a lot of the horror tropes. It doesn't have a lot of the horror-esque things that jump out and say horror. So some horror fans will say thrillers are never going to be horror, and then some fans are going to be like, well, thriller is okay depending on what it is. And then of course there's some movie critics where they're like, oh well, horror or thriller is a sophisticated horror. They don't want it. It was a good movie. It was very very impactful. A lot of underlying tones and themes. It was very intellectually done, but they just don't want to associate it with. By they, I mean like the Academy Awards or film community in general. Just kind of don't want to associate it as horror because no one wants to. Some people don't like to admit they like horror films, so they would label it as a thriller over a horror instead. And so it's like it adds even more to the gray area, and that's even more to like, how do I know I'm watching a horror movie? How do I know I'm watching something that I could sit there and positively say like this is a thriller, but it is more horror on the horror side of thriller than just suspenseful thriller, where it's just leading off a suspense and trying to catch you off guard, but no real like horror payoff. And so that was like the real big challenge, trying to find 13 of those movies that fit that criteria. That also, because most of them are labeled as thriller, and that also dealt with love and relationships, and not so much, just like the main characters are in love with each other. Like no, like the person committing the acts is either doing it out of love or doing it because of heartbreak or things of that nature. That was what like I was mainly looking for the first 14 days or first 13 days of the month. After that, I did My Bloody Valentine, the original, not the remake, because I've seen the remake, not fully, but a good amount of it, chunks and bits and pieces here and there, including the end. And while it has that nice grungy 2000s horror look, it just I didn't want to watch it. I already knew most of the beats. I knew the ending, and I wanted to compare it to the original. So, and I haven't seen the original at all. Don't know the differences between the original and the remake, so I decided to just play the original. Did get a little bit of flack from my daughter and my wife about I should have watched it on Valentine's Day, but then I told them that I had rediscovered a horror movie that was kind of lost into the throes of everything because it wasn't too popular, didn't make a lot of money, but it was called Valentine. And after watching it, I get it. It's not a very typical horror movie. It's not the next slasher. It was not even in contention for being a possible slasher franchise. It really had the feels of a one-off. It had a solid cast, which was even more crazy. But at the end of the day, it did its job, but without hitting all of its marks. It was a horror movie. It did have the horror ending. It did have the scares and whatnot to make it a horror, but it came so close on so many marks without hitting them. And so it was enjoyable still. I probably may try to find a home release copy just because it is kind of like a rare movie now, at least as far as I know, just because I mean I had to rent it. I couldn't. There were no streaming services that had it. And I think there's only DVD copies. There was no Blu-ray copies. So I mean, it's worth one that deserves to be preserved in film. And it seems like afterwards too, like a lot of people started talking about that movie. I don't know if it's because I searched it on Google and posted it on Instagram, but then it seems like a lot of horror fans started to pop up, and it started to pop up in more articles on the Google tiles that you get or that I get and discussing it. So I'm like, okay, so it's at least somewhat known, or people are just rediscovering it, and it's kind of getting a second life. But then after that, it's just like I'm just gonna go back to just regular horror and just because it's after Valentine's Day. There's no other big holidays for now until like or there was Mardi Gras, but that was during Valentine's Day. Mardi Gras was on Valentine's Day, so I couldn't do anything Mardi Gras related. So no Candyman. I didn't want to do Candyman anyway because it's a franchise, and I don't want to just pick and choose certain franchises without seeing them and break up how I view them. I'd rather just save those for I don't know what to watch kind of days, so that way you'll be like, well, I could just start the Hellraiser franchise. I'll start with Hellraiser one, and then after that, I think there's like 5 or 6 entries in that series. I have 5 or 6 movies. Right after that, I can watch a whole week almost of movies I only got to think about because I'm like, I already started the franchise. I'm gonna finish it out. Granted, I did watch Happy Death Day on my daughter's birthday, so that's has a sequel in itself, but I figured I'm going to save that for my son's birthday in November. Just because I did it for one of my kids' birthday, I'm just going to be fair and watch it on the other kid's birthday. But otherwise, yeah, I tried not to do franchise movies. And even now, like, cause I'm like, there's some franchises where I was like, there's just a few entries, but I'm only want to watch a one entry kind of movie. So I'm just gonna put a hold on the franchise and push it back to a later date. Mainly because it's the end of February and we had a lot going on. So it's just like I just kind of want to pick and choose some like 90-minute movies, 70-minute movies, something that's real short that I can just watch and then still finish with enough time to shower, go to bed, get enough sleep for the day. And that was just been like the main goal for the last 15 days of this past month. There is no leap year horror film or leap day horror films that take place on leap day. I think that needs to be a thing. But doing and putting in Google like leap year or leap day horror movies, nothing popped up. Only movies that have it as like a plot device but don't necessarily take place on it. Um, so like I don't know what to watch. I'm actually recording this on leap day, so I'm still trying to figure out what to watch for today. It's just still going to be a one-off. We have a lot of things coming up in March. I have Leprechaun, which I'm going to start the first movie on St. Patrick's Day and just finish out the 4 or 5 entries that they have in that series. Probably just do like the main Leprechaun movies. Don't know if I do any of the remakes or the reboots or the spin-offs, just because they're a lot different in tone and with the creatures itself. But we'll see. I also got spring break happening, so I got some spring break horror movies lined up uh, to watch for that whole week, and that's going to be kind of hard to do just because we're going to be so active during spring break. We're going to have a lot going on, and just trying to find the time again, just watch them all. And then after all of that, we don't really have much else going on for the month of March. In April, here in Central Texas, we are going to have a complete annular solar eclipse. We're going to be right in the path of totality. So I have planned out to watch Dust from Dusk Till Dawn, 1 and 2. So I'm going to watch one on the day before the eclipse, which is the 7th of April, and then the day of the eclipse, 8th of April, it's going to be from Dusk Till Dawn 2, just because there is a solar eclipse in the movie that takes place, and it's actually a pretty integral part to that third act or fourth act, whatever act it is. And then maybe watch Hangman's Daughter afterwards, but it's going to be hard because right afterwards is the 100th day of the year, and I've already got my movie picked out for that. Um, Still trying to figure out how to do the milestones of the hundreds. Uh, so for the 100th day, it's a 100-minute horror movie. Checking up on it, it falls short of 100 minutes just because it's 99 minutes and nothing 38 seconds or something like that. But on everything, it's just they all round it up and it rounds up to 100 minutes. So I'm going to take that so I don't have to just keep searching. It's also a movie I'm curious about and have been wanting to watch. So I'm glad I actually have a date set to watch it and a really good reason to watch it. So after that, I may do Hangman's Daughter from Dust Till Dawn 3. After that, just because of how everything's planning out. Don't have a specific movie for my birthday in April, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. Just one if I'm working. Two, probably not because uh, I'll be within that time where I won't be making my commute, and so we'll just see how the schedule pops out and how I'm feeling that day. Just and what titles I'm okay with watching that I don't have further plans for. And that's mostly it for the month of April. I think there's prom in there too, my daughter's prom, if not in May. So I have prom night set for those movies or for those nights. So it's gonna be an overall just this is going by so quick, faster than it was the last time I did it. But then again, that was my very, very first time. I'm just trying to find any and all movies to just fill in. I didn't limit myself. It was just a movie a day. Uh, but yeah, just trying to find traction to keep going and just trying to find movies that kept me interested. That was the main issue for like the first almost 3 months of it last time. And then I got into like, we got into March where I just did all the Marvel movies throughout the whole month of March. Which after that, it just was pretty smooth with how everything went. Especially since I did like Hollywood blockbusters from middle of May until middle of August. So then I got to just treat myself to just anything that was a big summer release or a big blockbuster franchise and just spam them, and that just ate up the entire summer. Like it was ridiculous how fast the summer went just because I was watching those movies. But this has just been now that I'm smarter and wiser and I'm planning stuff out. Um, and of course, like summer is another good time too for like summer camp theme horror movies or summer theme horror movies. Uh, so like there's no shortage there. There's gonna be no real issues. It's just gonna be still a really really fun journey. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for giving this update a listen, everyone. I know these updates, I usually try to keep them super short, but still, just want to make sure, just in case anyone out there is curious or kind of cares or just wants to know, like, hey, this is everything going on and how things are going. So, yeah, thanks for giving me a listen. I will give you guys much more goodness and hopefully more entertaining thoughts here over the next few weeks in the month of March. And hopefully in April too. Everything that I've got planned works out and keeps everyone entertained and keeps everyone occupied. So until then, I will see you guys on the next drive and the next journey. Until then, take care of yourself, and I love you.